Incremental things. Have you ever wondered, oh wow, I want to import this in SuperMemo. Oh yeah, and this other thing, and this other thing. And you just keep importing, and you have an astronomous queue of imported material that you're not reading. You're not actually reading. Are there pros and cons of doing that? Should you care? And so on. I will cover this in this video. There's something I like to coin terms, and I coin this importability threshold, at least for SuperMemo, how this applies. So you know that, especially at the beginning, you may be hooked with SuperMemo. It's oh shoot, it's so easy to import. And with very little time, that's actually true for me as well. I had hundreds of sources, Wikipedia pages, then books, textbooks that are into thousands of pages, and boom, ba 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 ba. And then perhaps you do the split, and you end up, after some years, in the hundreds of thousands of topics. It's, oh shit, did I import it too much? The question is, when a source is important enough that it deserves to be imported? You know about priorities. So I could rephrase the question about the importability threshold as this source, at the very least, deserves 100% priority. Remember that 100% is the lowest. So it's just enough to make the cat, even if it's just in the lowest tier in my collection. You may have a worry or a fear. Oh yeah, I will forget this. Just in case, let me import it. So it will be like I'm storing. It's like SuperMemo collection. It's just like a container. And boom, I threw up everything that I ever encounter. Which, I mean, is not necessarily bad. It's not intrinsically bad. But what happens is that these carry some consequences, especially technical. First, in SuperMemo, when your collection is huge, it will be SuperMemo will be slower. When you open the browser, you do a find and you do just a search, you do the repair collection, it will take hours. So this is adding friction for technical reasons. So it's not about having a lot of information. It's because SuperMemo doesn't use much of your computer resources. So then, if you back up, the backup will take longer, the file size will be higher, and perhaps you use GitHub solution for backup, you may hit the 1 GB limit quite easily. So you will have to move on to GitLab, and eventually you may also go beyond that limit of, I think it was 10 GB, and I don't know if they lower it to 5 or whatever. Then it's okay. I will import everything anyways. And regardless of the technicalities, there is one big con with that. Because everything you import will have a priority set. Even if the user, you don't set the priority, SuperMemo will do it for you. I remember, let me see if I have the collection here. Oh yeah, my English collection that at some point I had one single collection. You can see it takes a lot just to open the collection. So among other things, the Advanced English collection and so on, I have American Oxford and Merriam. I think Merriam is a subset, but look at that. I imported more than 160,000 topics. Crazy. I know it's an overkill. So you know what? Let me experiment and import the entire dictionary in my SuperMemo. So whenever I do a search, I will get hits. If I don't get hits in my collection, it's because it's not in my collection, in anything I'm reading, not even the American Oxford, Longman, and Merriam dictionaries. So I did that for this purpose, which I no longer use, by the way. But what happens is that, look at this massive. So I just opened one sub-branch that starts with X. So look at the priorities. everything it's almost in a sequence and the same range. So what could happen when I do big imports? That, oh yeah, the whatever can wait will be in the blue zone, right? It's the lowest priority. So yeah, this can wait. But I'm importing so much that bada boom, now into just 13 priority and anything beyond that is something I'm not reading, and perhaps it's something I imported in bulk even. So how I distinguish now that? Now we have one issue. Because most of the collection that is just for exploration, it's unlikely I will need that in my life. Could be, but it's unlikely. It's taking other ranges of priority. So now I can only work in the first 13 percentage of the priority queue. I could phrase that there's an overload of importing. So an heuristic would be that the importing, so as long as I can use those sections of the priorities, keep in mind what you see in colors is not linear. The red, it's just 2%. Look here. So it is in a logarithmic or exponential scale. So long story short, when you're noticing that if you want to set low priorities and the color is changing or the value, you would say, oh shoot, I'm doing Ctrl-Shift-A. I import something, and this something, I want to be in the exploring section of the priority queue, the lowest. I cannot do it because it's overcrowded. So this is pushed in a different zone. Then I would say you are importing too much. You can still do it, obviously, but this will require a higher degree of prioritization. First, you will have to niche down. You will be more precise. This is not 7.23. This is 7.15. Oh, really? Does this make a difference? Yes. If you're in your priority queue, you have 330,000 elements, as I do, 1/3 of a million. Yes, that's a pretty big deal. You may have noticed the Pieter's Wozniak collection, that his collection is even bigger than that. It's about 1 million or 800,000 in the screenshots of the documentation. And in some videos, he really does that. He's super precise, like in the second or third decimal point. That's because he needs this precision. Because just this change, look at the position, 23,614. I will increase it I will run down this to just 2.2. Boom. 3,000 positions. It's quite massive. So when you import a lot, keep this in mind. So what I do now, I have more than one collection, but even if with my genuine, that's a backup of my genuine collection. But at any rate, now I don't import as much. I keep the sources, I have the file, Calibre or other software, and eventually sometime I will import it over. Especially books or textbooks that are massive, and there's a lot of stuff. Look at that, if I go more or less in the same page as before, instead of 26,000, it's just 2,000 and something. It's more manageable, and keep in mind that look, I have 19,000 topics. Out of those, 16,000 are outstanding. So most of my collection is outstanding already. I'm not using auto postpone. So if I keep adding very low priority material, what benefit do I gain? I will have technical issues because of limitations of SuperMemo, but that doesn't outweigh the benefits. Yeah, I will lose the ability to search anything. Or now I learned one word. I don't know, for instance, serendipity. And I will be able to see when this is used in all the articles, books, and whatever sources that I have in my collection pending to be read. And if I have this outside of SuperMemo, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's not a big deal. For me, it's not worth it. So to wrap up this video, importability threshold, I recommend this especially if you're starting new. If you're starting new in SuperMemo, take it easy. But if you have a high entropy, a high land drive, just go with a land drive and import whatever you want. But keep in mind this will lead to some complications in the future. That's it. And one last thought is that, what I did is that even if I split the collection with English about incremental reading, some books and sources that, those are very low priority, and within a year, I did nothing. It's okay, they're just suspended in my collection, doing nothing yet. And it's so unlikely I will process them that, you know what? I will just straight delete them. It's not a big deal because I have the sources in my collection, in my computer, and I have backups. So I'm not losing the information, I'm just losing it from SuperMemo. So let me know if you have some heuristics about that. You import whatever, or I know some people are super picky and they only import if it's already kind of high priority. And if not, it doesn't make the cut. Nothing more to add today, and see you incrementally.